As I'm going through this, I'm alternating the way that the grain goes the best I can, if I have the option. Here, 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 here. And I'm putting an X on the top. I'm also looking down there, is it free of imperfection? Does it have any really nasty stuff on there? Do I need to flip it? And then once I like it, I'm putting an X on there. So I have a row of X's here, and that tells me, where I've stopped, and that I have graded these the best that I can. And don't get too carried away with this. You remember, you're not working with like the finest material. You're working with $2.50 framing material, 2x4s. So you can put anything you want on the top of this. This isn't necessarily the finished furniture grade type of thing. You may put conveyor belt, you may put rubber, you may put steel on it. You may work on it just the way it is. Trust me, after a year or two of beating it up and using it and getting it all dirty, you're going to forget about all these things. Just do the best you can with what you have, and then we'll finish it off with a plane, and you'll be happy with it. It'll turn out nice. All right, guys, I think we're ready to do our drilling. So I haven't done this particular way before, so hopefully it'll work out. I've got this on my sawhorses, and I built these, so I know that they're reasonably flat. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use this face piece as a template. I'm going to flush this edge on this side here, and then I've got a little piece of just a piece of scrap wood there that I can drill through. I'm not going to get into the next piece, so let's see how this goes. But I should be able to just to get this in here, make sure I'm level as possible, and go right through it. Let's find like a 1/2-inch bolt or something that fits snug in there. Keep that from moving on us. There we go. That's going to pay dividends, I think. We'll just keep that bolt there, and we'll just use it to hold everything in alignment. We should be able to slide our 3/8 rod without any problems through this. Now this, of course, is going to I have ran into problems with this in the past doing this because of just those little minute deviations in the hole. Once you start putting them all together, it becoming a problem. I'm trying to think of a way that we could. I guess that's going to come down to when we install it. So we'll drill all the holes according to the template, and then as we install it, rather than trying to feed the threaded rod through 21 2x4s, we'll go one at a time, and we'll thread the 2x4 through the rod. I think that's where I ran into the problem before. Before we start, be sure everything is numbered from 1 to 21 clearly so that we can see it when we start putting it all together. Then we're going to double check our rods. Now remember, we Loctited with red Loctite all of the nuts on one side, so we don't have to worry about that. We want to make sure that they're going to fit through all the holes, because when the glue is dripping and setting up and you're running out of time, that's not the time you want to find out that you had a hole misaligned or something like that. Also, we're going to want to cut these to length, because if we don't cut them to length, then we won't be able to get a wrench on them. So you should be able to clearly push. Oh, I got one pushing out here. Clearly push all these guys through. Now make sure they all go through without too much fuss, and you don't have anything obvious, like maybe you completely got a hole drilled wrong and one board sticking up 1/4 inch, and that's going to cause lots of problems. So we'll, as long as it's close, that's what we want. Now push, take one side, and we're going to push it all the way in. Let's go grab our nut and tighten it up, firm it up, measure it. We want to cut these to length, and I'll show you why. And I can't emphasize how important it is to leave nothing to chance. Have everything ready. Have your Loctite ready, have all your nuts and washers, have your 9/16, because that glue is going to be setting up. We only have so much time. Go ahead and put a washer and thread a nut on here. We want to just to pull this tight, just finger tight, for so we can get the length of what we're going to need for this all thread. You see, this being recessed back in here, you know, we're not going to be able to easily get a wrench on it, and we want to use a socket. Now, if you have one of those cool pass-through style sockets, you won't have to worry about this step, but I don't have any of those. So here's what I'm talking about. You know, our deep socket, of course, can only go so far. We can't tighten it. Well, that's not very clean, is it? So press this through. Make sure you compress the boards as much as you can. This won't be our final, you know, our final length. Once we get everything bolted down, it's done and tightened up, then we'll grind that back in down there. But just get it as tight as you can. And we'll just take a piece of tape or a Sharpie and just mark this right here so that we can come back and we can cut all these to length. They're all going to be the same. My goodness, look how smart I am. I put a piece of tape on there so I can't take the nut off and I can't continue on. All right, well, that's not going to work. We're going to use a Sharpie. Well, I guess we could just measure it with the tape measure there. Let's just take a Sharpie here and we'll just mark this one right there. And then we'll take those over to the vise and we'll just cut them all to length. I cut the first rod that we had measured. You're going to have to figure out some way to cut this. You can use an angle grinder, a hacksaw, sawzall, whatever you have, just figure it out. Here's a little pro tip. Before you cut, take a nut and thread it on beyond our mark. The reason for this is we're going to cut off, this is the first piece I cut off, looks like about 3 inches or so, go beyond that, is that when we cut this, it'll gall the threads up. So I'll just use that nut right there just to mark it, just for my quick reference. And then back it off, and we can go ahead and make our cut. Now when you're cutting with a hacksaw, remember a hacksaw cuts on the push, not on the pull. So you should put a hard heavy weight as you push, like this, and then lighten it, drag the teeth across the back, light on the way back. Now take a file and knock those sharp edges off. You're basically just trying to make a little dome on there. This will do a couple things. It'll make that nut thread on there a lot easier, and it's not going to cut you because that'll be really sharp. And then the reason why we put that thread on there is by running it back off now. If there's any burrs or if we did any damage to the threads, it'll chase that off there and won't give us any trouble. And it just verifies that we know it'll thread on there. So when our glue's drying, you know, we're not fighting something that we didn't plan for. What's helped me to stay organized is Mrs. W. What she says in the kitchen: clean as you go, just like a pro. What I found at the end of a job, when I just take things and don't put them away, then I got like a half a day on a weekend to put everything away. If you just take 30 seconds to put it away when you're done with the tool, then they don't stack up. It seems like a silly thing, but it makes a big difference. I'm not 100% sure the right way to do this because, man, we're going to have to be very organized and move very quickly because the glue will dry. So what I think I'll do is let's put everything over here on this secondary bench in order, and then we'll grab them one at a time, smear them with our glue as quickly as we can, and then place them down, lining up a rod on one side is what I'm kind of thinking. To do this glue up, you're going to want a really flat surface that's absolutely clean, no bumps or goobers or things on it. You can use a concrete floor, of course, that'd be great. Just make sure that we don't have anything that's going to hold us up or give us problems. And don't forget to put down paper or something, piece of plastic, tarp, something you can throw away, because that glue is going to drip all over the place, and it's really a pain to clean up. So the paper's about as good as you can get, because then you can just wad it up and throw it away.